1920s, China was in a turmoil of civil wars, and all kinds of things were going on which the foreigners couldn't control by the old-style gunboat diplomacy. So I specialized on making trips into the interior to deal with problems that had come up with our Chinese agents, usually in the form of an illegal tax being levied by the local warlord, that kind of thing. Well, after I had a certain amount of experience at this, I went up one time by the railway to the edge of Inner Mongolia, to what was then Railhead. And there we had caravans coming in from Mongolia and from Xinjiang, Chinese Turkestan, even from Tibet. And it was fascinating to see them, these camels, plodding into the railway freight yards, kneeling down alongside the freight wagons, and the loads taken off and put straight into the wagons. The age of Marco Polo meeting the age of steam. The age of Marco Polo meeting the age of steam.
蒋介石のもとにはおよそ30人のドイツからの軍事顧問団がいました。軍事顧問団のリーダーはドイツ国防軍の将軍アレクサンダー・フォン・ファルケンハウゼン。ドイツ式ヘルメットをかぶり軍事訓練に励む中国軍の兵士たち。ファルケンハウゼンは最新兵器の使い方や戦術を授け精鋭部隊を育成しました。ファルケンハウゼンが盧溝橋事件の半年前に作成した地図が残されています。
この下の地域、南京、上海、これらの場所ではすでに防御陣地が築かれていたことがこの地図から読み取れます。ファルケンハウゼンは日本軍が上海に上陸するのを予測し待ち構えていたのです。
地図に青く記されているのはすでに完成していた防御陣地です。ファルケンハウゼンは決戦場として想定した上海の西に防御線を引き首都南京を守る体制を築こうとしていました。
中国北部でいくら戦争しても世界は誰も注目しません。国際都市の上海で戦争をすれば世界中の関心を集め国際世論を喚起できます。
ドイツ軍事顧問団の作戦指導のもとに戦い国際社会の支持を引き出そうと図る蒋介石。上海での戦いは激戦となりました。
General was invited to China by Madame Jiang and President Chiang Kai-shek to visit and to observe and see what he could do to help the Chinese to organize the Air Force. That was 1937, and that was 1937.
July 23, 1937. First meeting with Generalissimo. Conference with the world's leading lady. Greatly encouraged by conference with Madam.
In the Huangpu River lie the warships of Britain and America and Japan to protect their nationals in Shanghai. The Japanese ships are the targets for the Chinese bombers, but the American cruiser Augusta was hit by an anti-aircraft shell. Japanese batteries are on the lookout for Chinese planes. Japanese batteries are on the lookout for Chinese planes. And here they come, bombers. British Movietone News records in these first authentic pictures the actual scene at Shanghai as the bombs aimed at the Japanese warships missed their target but burst in the docks. The Cathay Hotel is hit, Shanghai's biggest hotel, crowded with guests, when a huge aerial torpedo strikes it. Another falls on the pavement outside. Death and destruction follow, and a street panic as terrified people rush blindly in the vain search for safety. The bombing of the Cathay Hotel shocked the world, and these pictures have been rushed to the screen by ship and plane to portray with all the vivid truth of an eyewitness the senseless horror of war. And here's a big department store, another catastrophe of the first big battle of Shanghai. It was hit by shell fire in a wild duel of big guns, Chinese and Japanese, in Nanking Road, which runs from the famous Shanghai Bund. Casualties here in the busy center of the shopping district were terrible.
Known as the heart of modern China, Shanghai is the nation's largest city with a population of 3.6 million and is also the center of Chinese commerce, industry, finance, and trade. Shanghai had been the center of foreign settlements established by the Western powers for their interests in China. Those settlements were used as the only safety zones in the country, which was in the middle of a civil war. With that as a background, the Chiang Kai-shek Nanking government had used Shanghai as the source of funding to unify the country. However, the government was manipulated by the Western powers, which were alarmed by Japan's economic penetration. Hence, the Nanking government had adopted anti-Japan policies. It breached treaties and agreements signed with Japan and fueled naive citizens' anti-Japan sentiment and mobilized anti-Japan organizations in an attempt to damage the business activities and lives of Japanese residents. This situation led to the outbreak of the North China Incident. The Nanking government started a series of infringements in North China, resulting in the Japanese army to take security and self-defense measures to prevent further expansion of such events. On his way to the international settlement, First Lieutenant Isao Oyama, head of the Japanese Special Naval Landing Forces, was shot to death when his car was suddenly surrounded by members of the Chinese Peace Prevention Corps, who fired several dozen bullets at Oyama. The spot where he was shot was in the demilitarized zone established under the Shanghai Ceasefire Agreement. This incident was a well-planned act of provocation against uniformed members of the Imperial Japanese Navy. In all areas of Shanghai, Japanese residents, Chinese people, and other foreigners started to evacuate the danger zones immediately after the news spread. In the meantime, the Japanese military was mobilized as an emergency measure to protect Japanese residents and the nation's interests, but with only a small number of soldiers. Their intent was to seek ways for a negotiated settlement. The Japanese military tightened security against Chinese soldiers dozens of times bigger in size. The Chinese military showered machine gun fire against the Japanese military at 10 a.m. on August 13th. Finally, we had no choice but to fire back to defend ourselves. A little past 9 a.m. the following day, Chinese bombers suddenly flew over the headquarters of the Special Navy Landing Forces and launched an airstrike. Then the Chinese started a formation bombing on the Japanese consulate, military ships, and many of our bases. We fired back as well and drove them off. However, all of Shanghai City was thrown into turmoil as the Chinese military planes launched airstrikes even over the city's demilitarized zones. The Chinese military planes also launched a bombing campaign over the entertainment districts in the city, filled with several thousands of Chinese and foreign civilians. It was reportedly said that 940 people were killed and 1,400 others were injured because of this catastrophic bombing.